All right, we're live. Welcome everybody to another Bitovi front-end training. I'm Justin Meyer. With me, as always, or sometimes, are Matthew. Hey, Matthew.
Hello.
Kevin.
Hey.
And Adam.
Hey, everybody.
And maybe Brad. Hey, Matthew.
Hello.
Passively observing.
Hey.
Oh, I'm watching Adam. Let me kill the other streaming video. All right, so what we're going to be talking about today is I'm going to go through building TodoMVC with CanJS 3.0 pre. This is going to be a pretty darn close approximate to what comes out in the next month or so with CanJS 3.0. I'm going to be building fast and loose, so hopefully you're familiar with, this is for people mostly who are familiar with CanJS, to get a feel for it. If you want to give some comments about what you like and don't like, give us time to change it. This is a good video for you to watch. With that, let's get rolling. So I recently put out a CanJS 3.0-pre-6 release, and this is what we're going to be using. This has everything in it, everything in CanJS in it. So it has all of the core modules, all of the ecosystem modules, and all of the infrastructure modules. And I think it has also all the legacy modules. Actually, it doesn't have, the one module that it doesn't have is the CanJQuery legacy module, because this just changes the behavior of CanJS. And eventually when you look at the migration guide, it'll make more sense. But this thing even includes CanZone, and it doesn't include SteelStash because that doesn't really map. Like, it wouldn't really matter because we're not in a Steel application. But it's basically one big CanJS download, and it includes yeah, pretty much everything in CanJS prefixed with can. So if you're familiar with the old ways of using CanJS, well, it's can.control or component, just like you've used before. So my starting point is going to be an HTML page with all of the mocked up HTML of TodoMVC. So it's not functional, can't really do anything to it because there's no JavaScript other than us loading jQuery and CanJS. But you can see here a few things that are important to notice. For each LI of the to-dos, there's a div, and it can have a class of view when you're just viewing it. It can be view completed if you want it to look like it's completed, and a to-do editing where you can it can be edited in this editing state. Also, I think I added, let me make sure it's here still, a saving state. I'm going to assume I did add it, or we'll add it back. A saving state is just going to make the to-do look italic, so we can tell when it's being saved. This application that we're going to build isn't exactly how TodoMVC works. Instead, it's going to be kind of a close approximation. We're going to show off a lot of the new 3.0 features. We're going to use fixtures instead of storing things directly to local storage. Yeah, we'll things that TodoMVC doesn't do, like highlight as this is saving. We're going to add that kind of behavior just to show off some new features of 3.0. Any questions before we get started? No, see a lot of nodding heads. All right, let's get started then. I'm excited. So, the first thing I'm going to do is put all of this in a stash template. Now, normally with 3.0, you should be using, if you're using Steel, you'll use SteelStash or some other way to import templates as a file, but then get converted to a template renderer function. In In demos, we're going to do it the old-fashioned way, which is basically, oh, I'm going to put this link tag up above here, the styles here. What we're going to do is we're going to put it in a good old-fashioned script tag and load this whole content as a template. So I'm going to turn off my auto run while I make some of these changes. So this is when you're doing demos, a way to load templates. So I'm going to call this TodoMVC template, and I'm just going to stick all of this in here. The script tag, and this is just, I'm going to not indent correctly, just to keep this kind of size under control. And then what I'm going to do is I want to load this and render it as a template and insert it at the end of the page. So to get my template, I'm going to load, I'm going to use stash, which is now which is in CanStash here, and it has a from, and I'm going to pass it the ID of the template. And then I can render that template to a document fragment. For now, I'm just going to call that template, and then I can add that template to the document body.
You're not using CanJQuery, right? You're just using the...
CanJQuery is loaded, but I'm not using it here.
Okay.
I could use jQuery to, if I want to make this a little bit cooler, I could use jQuery to do this. Load the body and append it. So jQuery works with document fragments. Let's run this. And something will go wrong. No.
Uh-oh.
Already. I swear, this is...
Set attribute on elements. Uh-oh.
And this is why we hopefully have an editor about to start. Jesus, was this one?
Missing a closing tag somewhere, perhaps?
Quick Kevin dance or something.
Hmm?
Said quick Kevin dance. Distract everyone else who's watching live.
Let's see. Is that really the problem? Is input for some reason?
Is that... Oh.
Why would that be a problem? And why does the styles look all different?
Oh, you've got a section up above. You copied the first section in the head, right?
Oh, did I miss it? Oh, I've mismatched tags here. That's
There we go.
This input seems to be a problem still. Why is that a problem? Autofocus?
Doesn't like autofocus.
Doesn't like autofocus. Not sure why. This again. This is the beta release.
I'll follow that one.
There's still time. We'll get to that. Okay. So I've got everything in the template here. Now the next thing what I want to do is I want to make these, instead of these to-dos here, I want them to be actual to-dos. So I'm just going to make a to-do type. And this is one thing I think CanJS does nicely, is it provides, you can build types really easily that have nice APIs, nice methods on them, well-behaved properties, things like that. I'm going to create a to-do type, and I'm going to make that with the new map type that 3.0 brings, which is called define map. And this is like it's similar to old CanMap, except you don't have to use the attr method to read and write properties. Also, the define plugin is, in its behavior, is baked in, so the syntax is a little bit nicer. So my to-dos I'm going to eventually load from the server, so they're going to take an ID property, and I'm going to define the types. So here it's an ID, and it's going to be a string type. There's also going to be a name property, which is going to be a string type. There's going to be a completed property, which is going to be a actually, I think it's going to be complete property. And this is going to be a Boolean, but I want its default value, so if I forget to create a complete, its value isn't going to be null or undefined, it's going to be false. So I'm going to define its type this way, and I'm going to add on, I want its default value to be false. And I think that's it for to-dos. Now we have a nice to-do type, and I want a list of to-dos. And I'm going to eventually add methods to this list of to-dos, so I'm going to define a to-do list type as well that will contain these to-dos, and eventually we'll add properties to it, helper methods, things like that. But to get started, I'm just going to define a can list. And I'm going to say that every item in this to-do list has to be of type to-do. So I'm going to do, this is how I define the enumerable properties, and not enumerable really, I guess other ones could be. This is how you define the kind of index-based properties if you want to define their type, like this. So I'm going to say any item in this list has to be type to-do, like this. Okay, so now I have a to-do type and a list that will contain those to-dos. What I'm going to just start with right now is I'm going to create a list of dummy to-dos, and I'm going to pass them to the template to be rendered. So I'm going to create a new to-do list, and I'm just going to pass it some dumb data that I'm going to copy and paste, so we don't have to waste a lot of time here. Hopefully be one of the few times I actually use copy and paste. So this is my list of to-dos. And I'm going to pass to this template a list of to-dos as to-dos in the template. So the nice thing I talked about is we're in 2.3. If I wanted to get the to-dos like name, I would have to write it out. If I want to log it, I'd have to write out something like console.log to-dos.attribute. This is going to break. One, if I want a dishes complete or dishes name or something, I could write it like that. Now you can just write it good old-fashioned way, one.name. And we get dishes.
Yay.
Yay! So now that I'm passing these to-dos to the template, I just want to loop through those to-dos, and I'm going to draw out an LI for each one with the right name. So I'm going to pause this again as I edit. Excuse any coughing you might hear. I'm going to have a little nasally voice. There's a little cold going around. So I'm going to go through each to-dos, and for each one, I'm going to write out its name here, and name here as well. And I also want, oh, there's an as now, right? I can do to-dos as to-do. We want to get, like, cray-cray up in here. So I want to say this to-do, and I'm also going to, I'm going to make sure that the completed is on here if the to-do is complete. So if to-do.complete, then completed. Otherwise...
Wait, should that go on the LI?
Yes, it should. Thank you. Otherwise, to-do.complete. All right, and we can tie the checkbox here to, we can tie this checkbox to whether it's checked. tie whether it's checked to, oh, I guess we'll two-way bind it. So we'll be cool like that. So we'll two-way bind the checked property of this input to the complete property of the to-do. All right, let's start with that and make sure that this is working. All right, that looks good. Does it change? Oh, it works! Crazy. Okay, cool. But I'm going to get rid of this as to do business just because I'm going to forget about it and mess something up. So I'm going to see new features.
So is that as useful for like nested eaches or something? Like what's the point of having that as?
Just so people can, yeah, it's for nested eaches, so you have kind of a clear name that you can identify.
I like using it anytime you would have used like the dot before, so that you can actually tell what it is, just because it's more explicit.
You could also use this in place of the dot.
All right, now for some reason, something else is breaking. I must not have made. I would check complete, go bananas here. What is going on?
Scope lookup is not finding it?
Well, it must be finding it because otherwise it wouldn't be checked here.
Okay, so what's the problem then?
Well, see, it makes the name go away.
Oh, if you check it, it makes the name go away?
Yeah.
Wait, so is that the label name that went? Which one went away? The label name?
Remove the. Let's see if it's even one way. No, it's only one way, so this won't actually matter. Which is actually how I have in my example. The two-way bind, it was working when it's like as to do. So there's probably a bug there. I think that it's probably the set isn't working right. The new define reader set.
Okay. I'm keeping track of bugs, so.
All right, works this way. Okay, cool. Then fine, we'll keep it with this. Okay. All right. So now that I have this list of to-dos, I actually want the list of to-dos loaded from the server. So that's going to be the next step. Is I want to connect this to a back-end RESTful service layer. And the way to do that now is with CanConnect, and we're going to use the supermap, which is part of CanConnect. It's just a supermap. All it really does is it adds a whole bunch of behaviors that are commonly used all at once to a normal define map, and it kind of superpowers it with the ability to save, get items from the server, things like that. That's why it's super. So I'm going to use CanConnect's supermap, and I'm going to configure it to connect the URL where my to-dos will hypothetically be coming from, API to-dos, to my map type, which is going to be to-do. And I don't think I have to define the list type. So when it goes and loads multiple to-dos, what type of list do we want it to create? Well, we want it to create a to-do list. I don't think I have to define this if I've already defined the map type. This is to say, really all we're doing here is saying I want this URL. When I load data from this URL or save it, I want to do it on this type. Or when I have a lot of items, I'm using this type. There's a little bit of extra information that's good to provide. If you have caching with a connection, which this supermap does provide, you want to provide a name so we kind of isolate where we're saving things in local storage. So I'm going to add, say the name of this connection is to-do. And then finally, you want to define how your service works. To do that, I'm going to create a algebra for this service.
Why do you want to define how a service works?
That's a good question, Matthew. So there's, I guess we could wait to get there.
You're going to do fixtures, I assume?
Yeah, I'm eventually going to do fixtures.
Okay.
And
can explain
the
it
next
then.
step. So let's create a. What I want to do is then create the service that supplies API to-dos. So I'm going to do that. I'm gonna use CanFixture for this. CanFixture simulates services. It basically hijacks the XHR object so that if a request goes out, it's going to trap it, and you can provide your own response. So to create with 3.0 now, and even in before 3.0, there was fixture stores, or allowed you to kind of initialize almost like a fake service with some data. And then it could do basic pagination, sorting, grouping, things like that. But in 3.0, it's become much more powerful, which we'll hopefully get into, and that uses algebra as well. But I'm just going to start with creating a to-do store, which is going to kind of house my fake to-dos. So I want to fake like a little warehouse of, I'm going to mock up a little warehouse of the same to-dos that we used down here. So I'm going to make a to-do store with these fake things. I need to pass this in algebra so it knows what kind of to-do store to create. So I'm just going to create a fake to-do algebra, and we'll talk about what this does in a little bit. Here, I'm just creating an empty set algebra, and it's, again, a set algebra, just in a high level, it just describes your service layer. And it describes your service layer in such a way it can translate that to set logic, like union, intersection, those kind of methods that you do on sets. It creates those methods given a description of your parameters that your service layer uses. So at this point, we don't really need to do anything with set algebra. I am gonna pass it as configuration to my connection and to my fixture store, which makes sense because the algebra describes your service layer, so you can use that same description when you're kind of creating how this store should act and when you're creating your connection. And then finally, to hook up the fixture store, I want to hook it up and start trapping those RESTful URLs. To do this with CanFixture, I'm going to do CanFixture and then provide the RESTful API. And in this case, you provide and you include its ID, and you pass in the to-do store.
Yeah, I really like this a lot because like you get like an in-browser service that does like all those things that you said, you know, the sorting and pagination, all that.
Yeah, which we're not going to see actually very much of today. We will see a little bit of it as we go from all to active. We'll see that by using algebras, we can make it so that when you go from all to active, we don't have to reload data because we've already loaded it. So there's things like that it can do, and because we'll know that our service layer, you know, completed can only be true or false in our service layer. But we might not need to do any of that today. We'll see how far we get.
Just a quick question before you go on.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were using CanFixture outside of like a Can project and you just wanted to use CanFixture, would you then have to import CanConnect for the algebra, or does the algebra come separately?
Well, algebra is separate, but CanConnect is used to provide the is used to provide like the sorting and ability to do filters and things like that this service layer can now do.
So you can still use CanFixture. CanFixture would still give you like a sorted list of things, but then whatever if you're not using CanConnect, you gotta deal with that on the other end. If that makes sense.
Okay.
No.
So
No,
Justin, you've got new set.algebra. Should that be can.set.algebra? Is that
Yes, it should.
algebra is coming from can.set?
Thank you. But that makes, well, let's see actually if it should, because my example did not have that, and it's possible that I did not set can.set. Yep, okay. So you're right, it should be. Now? That must be adding itself to the global, which is a bug, but that's another issue. Good call.
So to Adam's question, if you wanted to use fixture without CanConnect, you would have to pull in CanFixture and CanSet.
Well, no, CanFixture has a dependency, CanSet and CanConnection. And CanConnect.
Cool.
But who cares because it's CanFixture? Like, it doesn't matter how big CanFixture is and its dependencies because you only use it in development mode. It could be 100, well, you don't want 100 megabytes, but it could be very large and it really doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay.
Good question. Okay, so now we have a service layer that we can actually do something. If we went to like something like API to-dos, that's going to give us all to-dos, and we can start playing with that a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use this model to load to-dos. Now, instead of to-dos being instead of to-dos here being that list that we made, I'm going to make to-dos a promise that represents the list of all to-dos. So I'm going to do to-do.getList. I'm going to say, give me every single to-do. And I'm going to change this to loop through, instead of each to-dos, it's going to loop through each to-dos, because now that's a promise value. So this is going to say, give me the promises value, which would be a list of all to-dos, and we're going to go through each one and render the page here. So let's get that going. Let's see what happens. And let's see our page here. Not a copy algebra of undefined. Oh, there it goes. Maybe I don't know why I just need. Sometimes JSBin is a little weird. You just have to like hit it twice. Okay, so I'm going to set the fixture delay to a little bit longer. This way we can actually see what's going on. So I'll set it to a second.
So it simulates like a slower.
Yeah, and you'll realize that it actually. Here, let me.
That was pretty fast.
Clear my local storage.
Yeah.
So you can see here. How do I clear the? Because it runs in like null.jsbin.com. Ah, maybe I can do this.
You can change which console or in the console you can change which window you want to run in with that little drop down.
Oh yeah. Good call. I don't know which one it is, but
it's probably that one. Yeah.
Well, I just ran it. Let me run it again here. So here you can see there it took like a second. It showed and then it showed the data. But now if I run it again, the data shows up instantly, and this is because of CanConnect's fall through cache. Which basically means that it's going to show you the data that was loaded last time, and in the background still make the request and then update the data once it has the actual data. Okay, so now let's start adding a little bit of more functionality. The first place I'm going to do this is I'm going to start with, I think I'm going to start with making, let me figure out where I want to start. I think I'm going to start with making the number of items left here update correctly. That's always a fun place to do that. The easiest way to do this is what's really cool is if maybe on the to-do list, I should be able to just say, maybe because I have my to-dos.value here, which is the actual to-do list, maybe I should just be able to do something like to-dos.value. Maybe that's the list of all to-dos. Maybe I just want to be able to do something like, this would be
Length?
active at length. Maybe I want an active property on the list of to-dos, and then that it gives me, whenever the list of to-dos changes, it kind of filters out, gives me only ones that aren't complete, and then I can just get the length of that array and just print that out as the number of items left. So to make this, I can add a active property on my list. I could say, here's the active property, and that's going to be defined as a getter, which is going to derive its value from the filtered. I'm going to filter this list with all of the to-do. I want only the to-dos that are complete false.
Oh, you might be able to use a two-way converter now for your checkbox.
That's true, but we'll get to the checkbox a little bit later.
Okay.
Okay. So now when I change this, you can see the items left automatically changes, which is cool. Okay. So what I want to do now is I'm going to actually make the all checked worked. So I'm going to make this so it checks all of these or represents when they're not checked, which you could use as a two-way converter now, but I'm not going to do that. Because really what I want to show right now is like kind of creating your application view model, if you will. A lot of times the main template is rendered with a main kind of application view model that's going to be connected to routing. So I'm going to start to set that up. So instead of this template being just rendered with this like object with to-dos and this to-dos as this promise, I want to make it so it's rendered with a defined type that I could actually test independently. It really can't get in here and test things. So I'm going to make that type. This is going to be my application view model. And this is going to be a defined map as well. And I'm going to make an instance of this, which is going to be used to render the template. So my view model that I'm going to be used to render the template is a new app VM. And you can imagine creating multiple of these in unit tests and testing it, but this is what's going to get passed to here. And I want my to-dos. So I'm going to make a to-dos property, and I'm going to say whenever it gets loaded, its value is going to be so whenever an instance of this app view model is created, like there is down here, I'm going to add some spaces so people can see. So whenever an instance of this app view model is created, I want the to-dos property to be that list of to-dos loaded from the server. So this is going to return to-do.getList, and it's going to load all to-dos. I want to make sure this works still. So now we have the to-do app view model, and I want to make it so that when this is checked, it's going to toggle a all checked. This is going to be two-way bound to an all checked property on the view model. So I'm going to set that up in here. Template first. So, oh, this is the wrong. Here's my input. This is the toggle all input. What I want is for this to be two-way bound. So two-way binding looks like this on a property. So I want to check. Oh, collect. Checked to be two-way bound to the all checked property on the application view model. So I'm going to define the behavior of that property. So it can be get or set. And when it's get or set, it's going to kind of update the to-do list here. So the way to do this is a little bit tricky. There's actually using a two-way converter would probably almost be easier, but what I'm going to define is the alt check property, and this is going to have a getter or setter. Getter and setter function. So when it's set to like true, it needs to go through and change all of the to-dos in this list so that they are now, if it's set to true, then all their completed properties need to be true. If it's set to false, all of their completed properties need to be false. The getter needs to do kind of the opposite. It needs to return true if every single to-do in this list is complete, and if one of them is false, it needs to return false. So to implement this, I'm going to use kind of a trick that I use a lot. So if this is to-dos, this is really a to-dos promise. What I really want is my list of to-dos. I need to be able to access that. So I need an async getter that everything else can reference to actually talk to the list of to-dos. So here I'm going to make a to-dos list, and I'm going to say this is the actual to-dos and not the to-dos promise. A lot of times we call this to-dos promise, which I probably should show. So I'm going to change that right now.
Makes it a little bit easier to understand.
Yeah, makes it a little easier to understand. Also, here, I'm going to change these then to, it can just go through the to-dos list here. And then this, now we can just do to-dos list. So yeah, here's the promise and here's the actual to-dos list. This is just really kind of a common pattern because you a lot of times want the promise so you can show if something's loading or not, which maybe we'll do.
If there's an error.
List easily, huh?
If there is an error, sometimes you want the promise for that as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons to want the promise, but there's also a lot of reasons to want just easy access to the list. So here I'm going to make an async getter. What this is going to do is it's just going to read the to-dos promise, and when it's resolved, it's just going to call a resolve function to set the value to the actual instance of actual list of to-dos. Now getCheck can actually access that to-dos list, which it may or may not exist. So what I'm going to do is I want all checked to do something like this. So what I'd like it to do is, hey, on the to-dos list, maybe there's a all complete method. And what I want on the setter is something like I'm gonna update complete to whatever the new val is. So these are going to be methods on my to-do list that when all check changes, it's going to call these methods. Now the one problem is that to-dos list might not exist. It might not exist because it won't exist until to-dos list is actually resolved. There's two ways we can fix this. One is we could actually just return, like an empty to-do list here. So just a placeholder list until the real list comes back. I don't know how I feel about that. That's not bad. Another way you could just deal with it the kind of old-fashioned way, which is just like, hey, just check. If there is the to-dos list, then do this. So this kind of thing works. So the return value would just be null or undefined for checked. So it would default to not being checked. So I need to implement these methods on to-do list. And this is the nice thing. That's the one nice thing I really like about CanJS is that it forces you to make to shove a lot of code in your models actually that could be reused, a million other places. So this all complete method could be useful in another application of this, like to-dos type here. Another kind of visualization of the same data. Could still be using these methods once they're written. So all complete, that is going to return a list of all the completed to-dos, or just make sure that it's going to return true or false if every single to-do is complete. To make this a little easier, I'm going to make it complete. Matthew, you might mind muting yourself if you're going to not be, because it's thrashing back and forth, the video.
Sorry, didn't realize.
No problem. So here, I'm going to make a complete that returns kind of does the same thing, just returns the list of to-dos that are complete. And I'm going to make this all complete use that. So I can be a little sneaky here. So all complete is really just going to return if the length is equal to the complete length. Now, if it's 0, should it be true? I don't know. Technically, that's all complete. I really don't know what. Maybe it should check for that, but I think that's good enough for right now. And then I'm going to implement the update complete through. And this just needs to go through each to-do and mark it as complete. For whatever the value passing here is. And for good measure, we should save this to the server. Make sure that the server recognizes it. Okay, so with that, should be able to click here. Yay, everything complete. Unclick, everything incomplete. Now let's see a new feature of 3.0 that it adds this kind of saving information, so you can kind of easily disable things while they're being, or you can change what they look like while they're being saved, so people know maybe not to like just click it a million times or let the process go through, that something is working. So I'm going to do that in here. I'm going to add a saving state. So if the to-do is saving, I want to write saving. I'm going to put these on multiple lines because it's a little bit easier to read.
I think your closing tag is wrong.
Thank you. And let's make sure I have that saving style, which I think I copied right, but I'm not 100% sure. Unfortunately, it won't let me look and just see. Let's just try. Let's do it live and just see. Otherwise, now when I click this, oh, see they went italic? That's because the saving class is being added while they're being saved. So you can give the user a little visual notification. Also, what would be nice is we could disable this so that the user can't really like toggle back and forth while these are kind of in an intermediate state. So I could add a is saving state to the let me go to CSS to the list, so we can know whether any item in this list is being saved. So we won't disable. So we can disable the dropdown, so we can't click it multiple times. So I'm going to add an is saving.
So is that saving flag being added by CanConnect?
Is saving is being added by CanConnect to the instances. Yep.
Okay.
So we're just going to make our own little filter Actually, we could return. We could actually make this a property just that gives back the saving items currently being saved. So I can make this a getter, just like I did the other ones. But the filter won't work because isSaving is a method, and these are only looking for property, true or false, like our property value, this kind of filter syntax. So we have to do the, unfortunately, but that's not so bad, the old form of filtering. We get our to-do in here, and I'm just going to return the to-dos that isSaving is true. And now what we should be able to do is disable this.
No, set an adder. Never mind. Yeah.
I can do this. This is disabled. I'm going to set the disabled property on this. If what is it? To-do list dot saving dot length. So if something's being saved, don't allow this checkbox to be clicked on. Now I should be able to. Nope, not working. All right, what do I have? What did I do wrong?
Does it have to be length is not a Boolean? Is that the problem?
No, this is the only difference I have here is I have it as to-dos promise. Value saving, return. Okay. No, not working. All right, let's see why not. Let's make sure that the saving property actually is working.
Is that setting the attribute or the property disabled?
Sorry?
Is it setting the property on the input or is it setting the attribute?
What do you mean?
Oh, I forget it. Well, the input option, setting the property.
Yeah.
Right. So I would expect that it probably wants a Boolean value, and you're giving it a number.
Except this, I think it's fine. I mean, I'm sure type course is the right thing, and it's working. It's working in my little cheat sheet.
Oh, okay.
I just don't know what the. I probably wrote something wrong. I just don't know what it is. It's here. You can just make a little. You can just do a little hack here. You can just there. Leave that there. What we'll do here is put this here. Okay, so maybe that is it. I don't know. I would think it would work because it's 3. This is 0. Well, it should be disabled. It's still disabled, right? Right? I think so.
Yep.
Copy and paste it. Okay. No, I spelled disabled wrong. I spelled something. Oh, why is it working now? Is this just like JSPen just screwing with me? Because now it's working. This is just JSPen. I don't know. Just sometimes it just doesn't update itself. It's so annoying. We need okay. Time to switch. Sorry, JSPen. You've done this to me too many times. Had a good run. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to set up the routing so we show active and completed. We probably will end it there because a lot of the other stuff is relatively the same. I guess. Well, yeah, I guess we don't have much time, so I guess I should just fly now. So let me actually work on creating to-dos first. So what I want to do is I want to replace this section here where the to-do is being created. Where is it? Right here. I want to replace this with a to-do create component. So I want to be able to put to-do create. I want to have that add that to-do create functionality. So I'm going to make that component. And this is going to be of type to-do create. I'm going to create the template for it in here. So this is going to be a script type dash maybe to-do create template, and that's what its content is going to be, because it's pretty much just going to be the same content that was there before. We are going to bring back autofocus because that's working in the other one, and I believe in it. We're also going to load that as this component's view. So we'll load can.stash. And I'm going to load a template from the element to-do create template. And with just that, we should get back the same kind of functionality. Yay, we have our autofocus back. Now I need a view model that when I hit enter in this element, it's going to create a new to-do on the server. So I'm going to create a to-do view model. To create view model as a defined map. And I'm going to make that create to-do method. What I want this to do is create the to-do on the server. What I really want to be able to do is just something like this. This.todo.save. I want kind of a placeholder to-do that this is writing to. So when this changes, it's kind of writing to a placeholder to-do. That's really nice for, so I could have methods on my to-do type, like, oh, is this valid, or something like that we could check. Create to-do could be checking, but we're not gonna do that. But I do want this set up. So I want this placeholder to-do, and I can create that as a to-do property. And I want a little placeholder to-do as whenever an instance of the to-do view model is created, it's going to create a little placeholder to-do. And that when the to-do is saved, I want that to Can you use ES? Well, I'm going to write this so it's safe, I guess. I wanted to use arrow.
You can do that, I think.
Huh?
You should be
the
able
old-fashioned way.
Okay.
So this is going to save. So what I'm going to set it up is so that this input is going to be writing to this placeholder to-do's name. So I'm going to make its value two-way bound to the to-do's name. It's going to be writing to this to-do's name so that it can just be saved really easy when someone clicks, or when someone hits the enter key. I want that to call create to-do on this component. And then what we're going to need to do is once it's saved correctly, we really need to discard the old to-do with a new to-do. So yeah, that should work. If I didn't have some syntax error. Undefined. Okay, I wonder if this just, I need to run this like 5 times or change the page here.
Did you define the name?
I define the name property, and I define my to-do. It's complaining here, but there should be a to-do instance. Oh, I know what I did wrong.
Is it link scope?
Oh, I didn't connect my view model.
Oh.
There we go. So now I can just write to do create, or I can just say, hey, learn 3.0. And it shows up automatically. You don't have to even do anything. It just shows up. Now, I could, so it'll add it to the end of the list because by default, when you do a get list, it assumes the server is going to send back items sorted by ID, and so that's why it's just inserting at the end. A better version of this, maybe we would have we could create like a due date or something like that, and we could sort by. We could say our service supports a sorted property. I haven't added that to my dummy example, so I'm not going to attempt that right now. So now we have that. Let's add some routing so we can filter the active and completed. So to add routing, I'm going to do this rather quick here. The CanRoute connects your application's view model to the properties in the URL. So what I want is, I'm going to use hash change, but I'm going to say that I'm going to add a pretty routing rule. So if after the hash bang there's complete or active, that's going to set the filter property on this application view model. So I'm going to add a filter property. That's going to be a string. I also need to add a route property that's a string because CanRoute will add a route which current matched route property is also being used to the application view model. So what I want to do is connect CanRoute to the this application view model. You do that with can.route.map, and you pass in the map. You want to connect to the routes, so that's that set up. And then once everything is ready, you've defined your routes. You've said which instance, which map you want to connect to. You call this CanRoute ready. And once you have all of that, I'm going to want to make it so that my to-do list here, to-do's promise, returns different things whether filter is active or complete. So we're going to get a different list depending on what's there. So I'm going to change this from, instead of just getting the list of all to-dos no matter what, I'm going to change this so it's a getter, and it's going to be based on what the filter property looks like. So if there isn't a filter, so filter wasn't set, that means we should be return. That means we clicked on all really here. That means return all to-dos. Go load all to-dos. Otherwise, what we want to do is go get the to-dos that are complete based around filter equals active or completed. So we'll want complete true if filter is complete. So if filter is complete, we're going to get all to-dos. Okay, so let's see. Now the next thing I also need to make, so I can't change the URL, unfortunately, in here, because it probably would be working right now if I could like manually change the URL, but instead I got to make these links work. So to make those links work, I'm going to use the route URL helpers of CanJS. So what I want, actually, these links are written right, so maybe this will actually work. Well, let's try it. But this isn't how you should write links, but it still might work. So, nope. What's going on?
By the way, are you sure that route URL is included? Have you tried
Yep.
this? Okay.
Yes.
Wasn't sure.
I tried this. I got that ready. Let me wonder if this is just okay. Let's change the page, maybe. There's less caching. Okay, now nothing is even showing up. Oh, no, let's try. Okay, so gosh, so obnoxious. Okay, I wonder why that's happening. Active is. Oh, I know why that's happening. Okay, because our service layer, we're going to be making a request like when you do active true or whatever. But that's going to be looking, our service layer by default, like this API to-dos that we created, what we're sending is a request when we click on active. We're sending a request from, where's our model here? Where's our super model? Oh, I put it in the wrong spot. Can't find it. Okay. So we're making a call that looks like to-do.getList, complete false. That's going to get converted to an API request that looks like API to-dos complete equals false. Now the problem is it's going to actually think that this is a string, so it's going to be looking for, in this store, the to-dos that match like complete string as false. So that will not work. So
Set
we need to tell
algebra.
Huh?
So it's set algebra.
Yes, exactly. This is where set algebra comes. Is we need to say, hey, the actual complete property is a property. So we do set.props, and we can there's like different types of properties you can define. In this case, we want a Boolean prop, and we're going to say the complete is that Boolean prop. So now we've said that. We can also provide, I'm going to provide some other information that's really good to provide, like normally you want to provide the ID, but we actually don't have to because our IDs are called IDs. You provide the ID property. But in other frameworks, it's like, or in other backends, it's underscore ID or something like that. And if you want sorting, you can, if you want to enable sorting, you could do props.sort. There's a bunch of different properties you can define here. We're really only using this Boolean complete. I'm going to change the page again. Then we run it. Hopefully that fixes it. Oh, now we have our active? What? Oh, this is... Yeah, same thing. I don't know why it's doing that. I know why it's doing the complete. It shouldn't even show anything. Unless this is completed. Let me see what property I have here. Oh, this is completed here. Let's try that again. So should show those. Okay, there's something fishy. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm going to press forward because I'm believing. I don't trust when it's me, and I don't trust when it's JS bin. So anyways, the final thing that we really need to do is make these links work. I'm going to make this so if the filter property is complete, that's what it's going to be checking if it's true. So here we just need some links, and what we want is the class selected is true if the filter property matches what the filter property needs to match. So in this case, like let's just do it with active first because that'll be easiest. First, I'm going to change the href. What I really want here is to ask the routing system for a URL for when filter equals active. This will generate the right URLs no matter what the routing rules look like down here. We'll go through kind of a reverse routing rule system. And then I'm going to make, what I want is to show the class selected if the current route matches, filter active. So there's this route current helper, and I can do a filter is active. I can write class equals active. I'm going to do the same process for all of the other elements here. So this is going to, but except for this one, filter I want to set to undefined. If this is the link gets clicked on for all, right? There is no filter. So that's why that's undefined. And for completed, we want that filter to be complete.
Could you use a converter to do two-way binding on that class?
Yes. You could use a converter to...
You'd have to write your own converter, right? Not
yeah.
One of the built-ins wouldn't.
I don't think we'd have the built-in one for that yet.
Okay.
Okay, so now I should be able to active. And this is not working. Weird. This works for me. This exact thing. Hold on. Okay, I'm just going to copy and paste. But because I changed the HTML here, it's going to be a little bit smarter. Okay, now it's a little smarter. Let's see. Let's go back.
So it's class selected, not class active.
Ah, thank you. Okay, so now the links are working. I don't know why default from cache.
Do you have to clear local storage or anything when you
that's
your set algebra?
Yep. Let me change set algebra.
Kevin catches everything.
Yeah. All right, let's do it again.
That last one was a question. I wasn't sure.
No, you were not right. That was a good bet. I'm not sure what's wrong there. I'll have to figure that out because it's definitely working. It's definitely working in my other example. Which is odd. Anyways, I think we're gonna end it there. This has this has been an interesting example. Hopefully, you can see where we're going. I think the new defined maps are really nice that you can just use .atter. Everything else is relatively similar, at least in such a small app as TodoMVC. The saving stuff is nice. The fault for cache stuff is nice. Are any other questions from you guys?
No, not really.
No.
All right. Well, I'm going to put out
completely weird.
another one of these videos once 3.0 lands. So this is just like a warm-up, and then we'll have like I think, a more professional walkthrough when the guide fully comes out. Thanks, everybody, and hope to see you next week.